The story of Jonah is one of the most famous in history. A reluctant prophet is sent to the wicked city of Nineveh, delivers a dire warning, and, shockingly, the entire city repents. Because they turned from their evil ways, God withdrew the threat of destruction. Nineveh remained standing, granted a reprieve that would last for generations. But that story is only part one. This timeline shows the massive 150-year gap between Jonah's successful mission and the events recorded in the Book of Nahum. Over that century and a half, Nineveh abandoned its repentance. The city grew into the capital of the ancient world's most terrifying superpower, the Assyrian Empire. When an empire receives a pardon but fails to maintain a moral transformation, that mercy only delays an eventual catastrophic conflict. This Assyrian stone relief depicts soldiers engaged in conquest, a visual record of how they maintained power through psychological terror. Records confirm they subjected victims to extreme atrocities, including skinning captives alive and hanging bodies on poles outside conquered cities to discourage rebellion. For the neighboring people of Judah, living under the shadow of this seemingly invincible regime, daily life was a state of profound despair. If the city was spared 150 years ago, what happens to the justice promised to those suffering under its boots now? When a superpower operates with unchecked cruelty, the people they oppress are left trapped in a moral vacuum that eventually demands a definitive, divine response. That response arrives through a prophet who identifies himself as Nahum the Elkoshite. While the exact location of Elkoshite is debated, a leading historical theory places his origins here, among the ruins of Capernaum, literally the village of Nahum, on the Sea of Galilee. In Hebrew, the name Nahum translates directly to consoler or comforter. Yet this supposed comforter delivers a graphic, unyielding prophecy of total destruction targeted squarely at Nineveh. Unlike Jonah, Nahum issues no warnings. He offers no call to repentance. The 150-year window for mercy has closed. Nahum delivers a message of comfort to the victims by decreeing total doom for their tormentors. This scroll displays the Hebrew text of Nahum's prophecy. God issues a definitive decree against Nineveh, declaring their wound fatal and their lineage ended. The text pronounces that God himself now stands against them, confronting Nineveh's armies as the Lord of hosts. For the people of Judah, this exact same decree is categorized differently. For them, it is good news that proclaims peace. Nahum uses imagery of a messenger running over the mountains, eager to announce the oppressor's fall to those who felt their endless cruelty. Lasting peace for survivors is built on the physical dismantling of the system that victimized them. We can establish exactly when this judgment was pronounced. Nahum references the fall of the Egyptian city of Thebes, seen here in the Karnak ruins, in the past tense. Since Thebes fell to the Assyrians in 663 BC, the book was written after that conquest. This creates a narrow 50-year window for the prophecy, setting a geopolitical ticking clock for the Assyrian Empire. The clock ran out in 612 BC. The once untouchable city of Nineveh was brought down by Babylon, reducing it to the mud brick ruins we see today, exactly as Nahum predicted. Nahum's writing functions as a verifiable record, mapping theological judgment onto a precise geopolitical timeline. The destruction of Nineveh serves as historical evidence that when an empire's cruelty becomes endless, its collapse is a matter of when, not if. Nahum's imagery of the feet of one who brings good news reappears centuries later in the writings of the prophet Isaiah and the Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans. Paul uses this imagery to describe the ministry of the Messiah, who brings news of reconciliation and life to those living under the weight of sin and death. The 150-year gap between Jonah and Nahum demonstrates that God gives a country extensive time to change its course. But any nation that rejects righteousness to embrace systematic cruelty eventually exhausts that patience and faces judgment. Nineveh's story shows that a nation's survival is tied to its moral character. When the lessons of the past are forgotten and evil is allowed to fester, the peace of the victim is eventually bought with the fall of the empire.